Okay. 1 Corinthians 15:22. What's the context again? The context is in 24 to 28. Jesus Christ will rule until he destroys all his enemies and bring them under his feet. And the last enemy is death, right?
Yes.
And then it says the Son will subject himself to God so that God will be all in all. The assumption is that God being all in all does not include Jesus. It excludes Jesus. Why would you assume that?
I'm not assuming that. I'm saying it looks to me like he is under the Father's authority.
No, it says, well, read it carefully, but I understand. It says the Son will subject himself. It's in the middle passive voice. I'm sorry, it's the middle voice. So that God will be. In other words, when Jesus submits himself to God, it's not for the purpose of him being subordinated. It's for the purpose of him coming in union with the Father, so that he with the Father will be the God who's all in all. Because from the moment when Jesus subjects himself to God, everything will be fully reconciled to God, and God will be fully reconciled with all creation. There'll be no more opposition, no more enemy, no more death, perfectly reconciled creation to God. But the God who's all in all includes Jesus. He's part of the identity of the God who's all in all. How do I know?
Okay.
Because the same Paul tells me that in the age to come, when death is abolished, Christ will still reign over all things. And in Revelation 22, I'm told that after death is destroyed and there's a new heaven, new earth, the throne of God and the Lamb will be in the city. Revelation 22, verses 1 to 5. So when does Jesus cease to reign with the Father? Never.
Never. Yeah.
So the assumption is that if the Son now subjects himself to the Father, it's for the purpose of being beneath the Father, and that the Father alone is the God who's all in all. No, that's the opposite point. He's now destroying all opposition, and then he comes under the Father to now begin reigning with the Father as the God who's all in all. That's Revelation 22, 1 to 3. In the age to come, when death is destroyed, it says the throne, one, of God and the Lamb will be in the city. Revelation 22, verse 1 to 3. And then if I open up Ephesians 1, let me read to you what it says here. Remember, the age to come when death is destroyed, same Paul. I don't think Paul contradicts himself, and I don't think you think he does that. We're not liberals. So Ephesians 1, 19 to 23. How long does Jesus reign above every created thing? Ephesians 1, 19 to 23. Ephesians 1, 19 to 23. So now these are good questions on the Trinity. This was open for. Now, watch here. On the screen, same Paul, who doesn't contradict himself. I believe he's consistent. I'm not a liberal who thinks that Paul is all over the map. Ephesians 1, 19 and 23. And what is the surpassing greatness of his power toward us? God's power that he uses in our favor for our benefit, according to the working of the might of his strength, which he worked in Christ. And he showed us his power, how glorious his power is. How? By raising Christ immortal. That's power that is beyond comprehension. And that's the power he's using on our behalf, in our favor, to glorify us. By raising him from the dead and seating him at his right hand in heavenly places. Now watch. How long will Christ rule above every creature? Far above all rule and authority and power and dominion, and every name that is named, not only in this age, but also the one to come. So when does Jesus cease to be far supreme over all creation?
Never.
Thank you. So 1 Corinthians 15, 28 must include Jesus as the God who's all in all.
Okay.
So if he's the God who's all in all, that means he cannot be inferior to the Father in essence, because he must be equal to the Father in the Spirit to be the God who reigns supreme over all creation forever. He's part of the identity of that God who's all in all, right?
Right.
And let me finish this because I'm going to give you a supporting passage for that. So in the age to come, and he put all things in subjection under Jesus's feet and gave him, Jesus, to be head supreme over all things for the sake of the church, which is his body, his spiritual body, the fullness of him who fills all in all. Now watch. Watch the phrase 1 Corinthians 15, 28 with Colossians 3:11. 1 Corinthians 15, 28 and Colossians 3:11. Watch here. Here's what he's referring to, but I'm going to show you that the last part includes Jesus. And when all things are subjected to him, then the Son himself also will be subjected, literally will subject himself to the one who subjected all things to him, so that God may be all in all. Now that phrase, God may be all in all, I just proved has to include Jesus. Now, Here's the proof. Colossians 3:11. St. Paul says that already for believers who are united to God, not in opposition to him, Christ is already all to everyone. Here it is, Colossians 3:11. A renewal in which there is no distinction between Greek and Jew, circumcised and uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave and freeman, because Christ is all and in all.
Yep.
Same language, right?
Right. Yeah.
Now, what's his point? Let me explain his point. We who are believers are reconciled to God and not in opposition. So therefore, Christ is already all in all. He's in union with us, in fellowship with us, and we're in fellowship with him. But that will happen for every created thing when Christ destroys all opposition, all enemy, and death. And the only things that will exist on earth are those believers who are now fully reconciled to God and a creation that's no longer disordered and influenced by demonic powers, but a fully restored creation. So there'll be perfect union, fellowship, and peace between God and creation. That's what it means for God to be all in all. But that includes Christ. And we got a taste of it already now in the church. In the church, God is already all in all and will be fully realized at the end. But that includes Christ as being the God who's all in all, right?
Right.
You see where it says
Okay.
Christ will be subjected to God, the Father?
Yeah.
That same word, subjected, hupotasso. You can look at a Greek lexicon, see, so you know I'm not lying. Luke 2:51. That same word, Luke 2:51, applied to Jesus when he was around 12 years old. And look what it says, Luke 2:51. Okay. And he went down with them and came to Nazareth, and he continued in subjection to them. Same word. It says that Jesus was subjected to Mary and Joseph. Does that mean Jesus is inferior to Mary and Joseph in essence and nature and worth?
No, no.
But it's the same word. He was subjected to them, meaning Mary and Joseph. Same word, right?
Right.
Why would we assume that if Jesus is subject to the Father, it makes him less divine, a second God, or inferior in essence to the Father, when we don't assume that when Jesus is subject to Mary and Joseph? Who in their right mind would say that Jesus being subject to Mary and Joseph makes him less human, inferior in essence and value?